am pregnant with twins, and their future stepmom posted on social media that she was expecting babies the non-traditional way, so I moved states away. Let me explain how I ended up here. 6 months pregnant in a city where no one knows my name. My ex-husband Dexter and I divorced when I was 4 months along. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but we'd been trying to work things out. Then I found the texts. He'd been seeing Bridget, his assistant, for 8 months. The same 8 months we'd been in couples therapy. When I told him about the twins, he went pale. Not happy pale, terrified pale. I can't do this right now, he said. Bridget and I are getting serious. 2 weeks later, he moved out. 4 weeks after that, his lawyer served me divorce papers. Then Bridget's Instagram post appeared. A photo of her and Dexter holding a onesie with the caption, "Starting our family the non-traditional way. So blessed to become parents soon." The comments poured in. "Congratulations, you'll be amazing parents." My phone exploded with screenshots from concerned friends. "She's talking about your babies," they said. I called Dexter immediately. "Tell her to take it down. She's excited. She's going to be their stepmom. She deserves to share her joy. Those are my children. Legally, they're mine too. And Bridget's going to help raise them. You need to accept that." That night, I scrolled through Bridget's profile. She'd created a whole pregnancy journey narrative. Weekly bump updates using photos she'd clearly found online. A gender reveal party I wasn't invited to. A nursery design board. Gift registries at 3 different stores. She'd built an entire fantasy where she was the mother and I simply didn't exist. I contacted a lawyer. He reviewed everything and frowned. "Document everything. We might need it for custody hearings." My mom came over the next day. "Pack your things," she said. "You're staying with your aunt in Oregon until you figure this out. I can't just leave." "Yes, you can. I watched your father manipulate custody of you kids for years. Don't give Dexter that chance." Within a week, I'd packed up and driven 200 miles to my aunt's house. I filed paperwork updating my address, transferred my prenatal care, and found a family lawyer who specialized in interstate custody cases. Dexter called, furious. "You can't just take my kids to another state." "I'm not taking them anywhere. I'm establishing my home where I have family support. My lawyer says you're in violation of our agreement. We don't have a custody agreement yet. These babies are still inside me. I'm allowed to live where I want." That was 4 weeks ago. Since then, Bridget posted a hospital bag checklist, a birth plan she wrote for my delivery, and a photo series titled, "Preparing to Meet Our Twin." Yesterday, my aunt found an envelope in her mailbox. Inside was a letter from Bridget, handwritten on expensive stationery. "I know this situation is complicated, but I want you to know I'll love these babies as my own. Dexter and I have been preparing our home for them. We've converted 2 rooms into nurseries, hired a night nurse, and enrolled in parenting classes. Please call me so we can discuss co-parenting arrangements." My hands shook reading it. She'd somehow found my aunt's address. She was talking about co-parenting, about their nurseries. I called my lawyer immediately. He told me to save everything and not respond. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. I did some research on Bridget. 5 years ago, she was involved in a case in another state. A woman accused her of stalking during her pregnancy after Bridget began a relationship with the woman's husband. The case was settled confidentially. This morning, I woke up to a notification. Bridget had tagged me in a post. A photo of her and Dexter at a baby store. The caption reading, "Can't wait for Thanksgiving when we're all together as a family. Only 2 months until we meet our babies. My due date is in 6 weeks." I couldn't fit what happens next in this short video. Watch the rest down below. The notification sat on my phone screen like a threat. I screenshot it, added it to the folder I'd been building. 73 pieces of evidence so far. Every post, every comment, every message. My lawyer said judges loved documentation. My aunt knocked on my bedroom door. "Honey, there's someone here to see you." My stomach dropped. "Who?" Says her name is Patricia. Claims she's a friend of Dexter's mother. I'd never heard that name before. I pulled on a cardigan over my maternity shirt and walked downstairs. The woman standing in my aunt's living room was maybe 60, wearing a tailored pantsuit and holding a leather portfolio. "I apologize for showing up unannounced," she said. Her voice was calm, professional. "I'm Patricia Delgado. I was Dexter's mother's attorney before she passed. May I speak with you privately?" My aunt looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay." Patricia waited until my aunt left the room. Then she opened her portfolio and pulled out a manila folder. Dexter's mother came to see me 3 months before she died. She was concerned about her son's relationship with his assistant. She asked me to hold these documents until they became relevant. She handed me the folder. Inside were printouts of emails, text messages, and what looked like a police report. I scanned the first page and felt my breath catch. "Bridget Anderson, born Bridget Moyer, legally changed her name in 2019, I read aloud. "Restraining order filed by Lauren Mitchell in 2018. Allegations of stalking, identity theft, and harassment during Mitchell's pregnancy." "There's more," Patricia said. "Lauren Mitchell was married to Bridget's previous employer. Similar pattern to your situation. Bridget began an affair with the husband, became fixated on the pregnancy, created social media accounts pretending to be pregnant herself. What happened? The case was settled when the husband agreed to terminate his relationship with Bridget and pay a sum of money. Part of the settlement required Bridget to undergo psychological evaluation and treatment." Patricia pulled out another document. "She was diagnosed with pseudopsoriasis delusion with attachment disorder. In layman's terms, she becomes convinced she's pregnant or that other people's pregnancies are somehow hers." I sat down heavily on the couch. "Dexter knows about this?" His mother confronted him about it before she died. He dismissed it as a jealous ex-wife spreading lies. "She wanted you to have this information. She said if Dexter ever had children, you'd need protection." I looked at the documents again. There were therapy notes, medical records, court filings, all sealed as part of the settlement. But somehow Dexter's mother had obtained copies. "Why didn't she tell me herself? She died 4 months ago, before Dexter told her about your pregnancy." Patricia closed her portfolio. "I've been monitoring the situation. When I saw the social media posts, I knew it was time to come forward. After Patricia left, I called my lawyer. He listened to everything, then went quiet for a long moment. This changes things significantly, he finally said. I'm going to file an emergency motion for a protective order. These documents establish a pattern of behavior that poses a threat to you and your children. Will it work? We have a documented history of the exact same behavior with another victim. Yes, I think we have a very strong case. That evening, Dexter called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a 3-minute message that started calm and ended furious. I know you're screening my calls. Bridget told me someone came to visit you. Some lawyer spreading lies about her. I need you to understand something. Bridget has been nothing but supportive during this difficult time. She loves these babies already. She's been preparing to be a mother to them. And you're trying to poison everyone against her with old stories that were proven false. You're being cruel and vindictive because you can't accept that I've moved on. I saved the voicemail, added it to the evidence folder. 74. The next morning, my mom called. Your father wants to talk to you. My parents had divorced when I was 12. Dad remarried within a year. We'd maintained a relationship, but it was strained. What does he want? Just talk to him, please. Dad got on the line. His voice was gruff, uncomfortable. Your mother told me what's happening, with the babies and everything. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes when you were growing up. Chose the wrong person. Didn't protect you kids the way I should have. He cleared his throat. I'm not going to make those mistakes again. I talked to a buddy of mine who's a private investigator. He's going to do some digging into this Bridget woman. No charge. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Let me do this. 3 days later, Dad's investigator friend sent a 40-page report. Bridget had changed jobs 7 times in the past decade. At 3 of those jobs, she'd been dismissed following complaints of inappropriate behavior toward pregnant coworkers. At one company, she'd tried to attend a colleague's baby shower despite not being invited. At another, security had to escort her out after she was found taking photos of items from a pregnant coworker's desk. She had no criminal record beyond the one sealed case. But the pattern was there, documented in HR files and witness statements the investigator had obtained through methods I probably didn't want to know about. My lawyer filed the emergency motion. The hearing was scheduled for 5 days later. In the meantime, Bridget's posting escalated. She shared a photo of a hospital tour with the caption, "So grateful to the amazing staff who will help deliver our twins." She posted a checklist of what to pack in the delivery room. She shared a birth announcement template with Dexter's last name filled in and blank spaces for the babies' names. Each post felt like a violation, like she was stealing my experience before I could even have it. The day before the hearing, my aunt came into my room. "There's a package for you. No return address." Inside the box was a pair of matching baby blankets, pale yellow with embroidered edges. The card read, "For our babies. Love, Bridget." I documented everything. Photographed the blankets, the box, the card. Evidence number 97. The hearing was in family court. I dressed carefully, professional, but visibly pregnant. My lawyer said appearances mattered. Dexter showed up with his lawyer and Bridget. She was wearing a loose-fitting dress that could almost look like a maternity outfit if you didn't look too closely. Her hand rested on her completely flat stomach in a protective gesture I recognized from my own unconscious habits. The judge reviewed our filings. He looked at Bridget's social media posts, the previous case documents, the investigator's report. Then he asked Bridget to approach the bench. "Ms. Anderson, are you currently pregnant?" "No, Your Honor. But I'm going to be a mother to these children. I've been preparing for—" "That's not what I asked. Are you biologically pregnant at this time?" "No, but have you been creating social media posts that suggest you are pregnant or will be giving birth?" Bridget's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client has every right to share her excitement about becoming a stepmother. I'm not questioning her right to be excited." The judge pulled up something on his computer. "I'm questioning posts that say, 'We're pregnant, our pregnancy journey,' and 'preparing for delivery.' These posts don't mention stepmotherhood. They present Ms. Anderson as the biological mother." Bridget's face flushed. "That's just how I feel. Emotionally, these are my babies too." The judge turned to Dexter. "Mr. Patterson, are you aware of Ms. Anderson's previous legal case involving similar behavior?" Dexter's lawyer stood immediately. "Your Honor, that case was sealed. It's prejudicial to— the mother of your children has a right to know if someone with a documented history of concerning behavior will be around her newborns." The judge closed his laptop. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. Ms. Anderson, you are not to contact the mother directly or indirectly. You are not to post on social media about these children, tag the mother in posts, or create any content that suggests you are the biological mother of these infants." "But Your Honor," Bridget's voice cracked. "I love them. I've been preparing for months. I've bought everything they need. Ms. Anderson, I strongly suggest you speak with a mental health professional. The behavior documented here raises serious concern." He turned to Dexter. "Mr. Patterson, you will have reasonable visitation rights once paternity is established and the children are born. However, Ms. Anderson will not be present during any custody exchanges or visitation until she undergoes a psychological evaluation and is cleared by a court-appointed therapist." Dexter stood abruptly. "This is insane. You're telling me my partner can't be around my own children? I'm telling you that your partner has exhibited behavior that multiple experts have identified as potentially harmful. Until we can establish that these children will be safe in her presence, yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you." We left the courthouse separately. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, just breathing. It felt like a weight had lifted, but I knew this wasn't over. That night, Bridget's Instagram went private, but she'd created a new account under a slightly different name. The first post was a photo of the baby blankets she'd sent me, with the caption, "When you pour your heart into gifts for children you'll never be allowed to meet. The system is so broken." The comments flooded in, friends and strangers alike offering sympathy, condemning me without knowing my name. Someone shared the post to a mommy group with thousands of members. Within hours, people were speculating about the cruel birth mother who wouldn't let a loving stepmother bond with her babies. I screenshot everything and sent it to my lawyer. He filed a contempt motion immediately. The stress triggered early contractions. My aunt drove me to the hospital at 2 in the morning, my hands gripping my belly while I tried to breathe through the pain. It's too early, I kept saying. They're not ready. The on-call doctor examined me and started an IV. We're going to stop the labor. You're at 34 weeks. If we can get you to 37, that's full term for twins. They kept me overnight for monitoring. My mom flew in the next morning, looking older than I remembered. She sat beside my hospital bed, holding my hand. Your father and I should have done better, she said. After the divorce, we were so focused on our own pain that we didn't protect you from his mistakes. Mom, that was 20 years ago, and you're still dealing with the consequences. Watching you go through this, seeing how hard you're fighting to protect these babies, her voice broke. I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry I didn't fight harder for you back then. They released me after 48 hours with instructions for bed rest and weekly monitoring. My aunt transformed the guest room into a command center. Laptop, phone charger, snack station, everything within arm's reach. The contempt hearing was held virtually. I appeared on camera from bed, my blood pressure cuff visible on my arm. The judge was not pleased. Ms. Anderson, I explicitly ordered you not to post about these children on social media. You created a new account within hours of that order. I didn't use their names or show their pictures. I was just expressing my feelings about the situation. You violated the spirit and intent of my order. I'm extending the restraining order through the children's first birthday and increasing the distance requirement. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the mother and children at all times. Bridget started crying on camera. You're keeping me from my family. They are not your family. They are your boyfriend's children with another woman. Until you can accept that reality, you pose a risk. After the hearing, Dexter texted me. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed Bridget. She's devastated. I didn't respond. I was learning that engagement only gave him ammunition. 2 weeks later, Dad's investigator called. You need to see this. He sent me a link to a private Facebook group. Someone had accepted his fake account. The group was called Mothers Denied Their Children and had over 3,000 members. Bridget was one of the most active posters. She'd shared her whole story. The unfair birth mother who refused to let her be involved. The biased judge who didn't understand modern families. The restraining order that violated her rights. She'd edited the narrative to paint herself as the victim and me as vindictive and cruel. The comments were worse. Women sharing their own stories of custody battles and parental alienation, but they were validating Bridget's delusion, encouraging her to fight back, suggesting ways to circumvent the restraining order. One comment made my blood run cold. GPS trackers are cheap and easy to hide. You have a right to know where your children are. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and the police. They opened an investigation into potential stalking charges. At 36 weeks, my doctor put me on strict bed rest. The twins were healthy but small. They wanted to get me to at least 37 weeks if possible. I spent my days working remotely from bed, trying to maintain some normalcy. My boss had been understanding, but I could feel the strain. Maternity leave would start soon, and I'd need every penny of it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I just want to talk, face to face, woman to woman. You're being unreasonable. I screenshot it and called the police. They traced the number to a prepaid phone purchased at a store 2 miles from Dexter's house. The officer who came to take my statement was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes. We see this kind of thing more than you'd think. Women who become obsessed with other people's pregnancies. Usually there's underlying trauma, fertility issues, something like that. What happens to them? Depends. Some get treatment and move on. Others, she closed her notebook. Others escalate until someone gets hurt. Keep documenting everything. If she contacts you again, don't respond. Just report it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Bridget out there somewhere, convinced these babies were somehow hers. What would she do when they were born? Would the restraining order be enough? At 3 in the morning, my water broke. My aunt drove 90 miles an hour to the hospital, talking to the 911 dispatcher the whole way. I was timing contractions, trying not to panic. 36 weeks and 5 days. Close enough to full term for twins, but still early. They got me to labor and delivery just as the contractions intensified. The pain was different than I expected. More pressure, more overwhelming. I gripped the bed rails and tried to remember the breathing techniques from my online birthing class. My mom arrived within the hour, having driven through the night from Seattle. She held my hand through each contraction, wiped my forehead, told me I was strong. Call Dexter, I said between contractions. He should know. Mom hesitated. Are you sure? He's their father. Whatever else is happening, he has a right to be here. She stepped into the hallway to make the call. When she came back, her expression was grim. What did he say? He said he and Bridget are on their way. I told him about the restraining order. He said she'll wait in the car. I was too exhausted to argue. The anesthesiologist came in to discuss pain relief options. I opted for an epidural, too tired to try for natural childbirth with twins. 6 hours later, I was fully dilated. The delivery room filled with medical staff. 2 teams, 1 for each baby. The doctor kept talking, but I couldn't focus on the words. Everything narrowed to pushing, breathing, existing through each wave. Twin A was born at 2:47 p.m. A girl, 5 pounds 2 ounces. They placed her on my chest for 30 seconds before whisking her away to the warming station. I barely had time to see her face. Twin B followed 12 minutes later. Another girl, 4 pounds 9 ounces. Same brief moment of contact before the team surrounded her. Are they okay? I kept asking. Are they breathing? They're perfect, the nurse said. Small, but perfect. They let me hold them once they were stable. 2 tiny faces, eyes squeezed shut, impossibly fragile. I'd spent 6 months terrified of this moment, of being responsible for 2 lives. But looking at them, I felt only fierce protectiveness. Hey babies, I whispered. I'm your mama. I've got you. A nurse came in an hour later. There's a man here who says he's the father. Do you want to see him? I looked at my daughters, asleep in their hospital bassinet. Yes, but check that he's alone first. She came back 5 minutes later. He's alone. His girlfriend is in the parking lot apparently causing a scene with security, but he's alone. Dexter walked in looking disheveled and anxious. He stopped when he saw the babies, his face going through several emotions I couldn't read. They're so small. They're twins. They're supposed to be small. He moved closer to the bassinet. Can I hold them? One at a time. I picked up twin A and placed her in his arms. He held her awkwardly, like someone who'd never held a baby before. Maybe he hadn't. She looks like you, he said. She looks like herself. Have you picked names? Not yet. I wanted to meet them first. We sat in uncomfortable silence. He held each baby for a few minutes while I watched carefully, ready to take them back at any sign of distress. Bridget's not taking this well, he finally said. That's not my problem. She just wants to meet them. 5 minutes. That's all she's asking. No, you're being unreasonable. She's going to be in their lives. You can't keep her away forever. I can and I will until a judge says otherwise. She violated the restraining order just by coming here. She stayed in the car. She's supposed to be 500 feet away. How big do you think this parking lot is? A security guard knocked on the door. Ma'am, we've removed a woman from the premises. She was trying to access the maternity ward using a visitor badge with someone else's name. Should we file a police report? I looked at Dexter. His face had gone pale. Yes, I said. File the report. Dexter put the baby back in the bassinet and stood. This is crazy. You're turning me into the bad guy when all I want is for my children to have 2 parents who love them, then start acting like a parent instead of an enabler. Your girlfriend tried to break into the maternity ward. She could have accessed other people's newborns. This isn't about you and me anymore. This is about keeping these babies safe. He left without another word. I spent 3 days in the hospital. The twins needed to pass their feeding tests and maintain their body temperature. I barely slept, too wired to rest. Too anxious about every beep and alarm from the monitors. My mom stayed with me the entire time. She changed diapers, helped with feedings, ran interference with nurses and visitors. We didn't talk about the past or her regrets. We just existed in the present, taking care of the babies. On day 2, the police came by. They'd arrested Bridget for violating the restraining order and attempted trespassing. She'd tried to get into the maternity ward by claiming to be my sister. When that didn't work, she tried to bribe a visitor to let her use their badge. She's in custody pending a psychiatric evaluation, the officer said. The judge ordered an emergency hold. She'll be evaluated before she can be released. What does that mean for us? Means you've got at least 72 hours without worrying about her showing up. I named the babies that night. Olivia Rose and Charlotte May. Names that were mine alone, that didn't connect to Dexter or his family or any of this mess. Names I'd been holding onto since I was a little girl dreaming about someday. We left the hospital on day 4. My aunt had installed car seats and baby-proofed her house. Mom had stocked the nursery with diapers and formula and everything we'd need. The first week home was brutal. Newborn twins meant constant feeding, diaper changes, and soothing. I slept in 90-minute increments. My body ached from delivery. My breasts hurt from trying to establish breastfeeding with 2 babies. Everything felt overwhelming and impossible. But Mom and my aunt took shifts. When one baby cried, someone was always there to help. When I broke down sobbing from exhaustion, Mom rocked me like I was a child again. You're doing so well, she kept saying. You're a natural mother. Dexter called every day, asking to visit. I set boundaries through my lawyer. Video calls twice a week for now. In-person supervised visits once the babies were a bit older and more stable. He didn't like it, but he had no choice. The psychiatric evaluation came back. Bridget was diagnosed with pseudocyesis with attachment features and recommendations for intensive therapy. The judge extended the restraining order indefinitely and added mandatory weekly therapy sessions. If she missed even one session, she'd face jail time. Dexter had to make a choice. Stay with Bridget or be an active father. He couldn't do both, not while the restraining order was in place. He chose Bridget. I can't abandon her when she's struggling, he said during a video call. She needs me. The babies will be fine without me for a while. I felt nothing when he said it. No anger, no sadness, just a cold certainty that I'd been right all along. Dexter was never going to be the father these girls needed. Okay, I said. Let me know when you want to revisit this conversation. He tried to backtrack. I didn't mean forever, just until Bridget gets better, until things calm down. They're 2 weeks old, Dexter. This is their entire life. You don't get to put fatherhood on pause because it's inconvenient. You moved across the country to keep them from me. I moved to protect them. There's a difference. I hung up and blocked his number. My lawyer would handle any future communication. Mom stayed for 6 weeks. She held babies while I showered, cooked meals when I forgot to eat, forced me to rest when I was running on fumes. We grew closer than we'd been in decades. I see him sometimes, she admitted one night while we did laundry. Your father, the way you protect these girls. Put them first without question. That's what parents should do. You did the best you could. My best wasn't good enough, but you're breaking that cycle. These girls will never doubt they come first. At 8 weeks, I started looking for a permanent place. My aunt's house was wonderful, but I needed my own space. I found a 2-bedroom apartment near a good school district, walkable to parks and libraries. Nothing fancy, but safe and affordable. Dad helped with the deposit. Consider it grandpa tax, he said. I started therapy, not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to process everything that had happened. The betrayal, the stalking, the fear. I didn't want to carry that weight into my daughter's lives. The therapist helped me see patterns I'd missed. How Dexter had always prioritized his comfort over my needs. How he'd gaslit me during the affair, making me doubt my instinct. How he'd enabled Bridget's delusions because it was easier than confronting her. You're allowed to be angry, my therapist said. You don't have to be gracious or understanding. He put you through hell. I let myself feel it then. All all the rage I'd been pushing down, the fury at Dexter for choosing so poorly, the horror at Bridget's violations, the grief over the family I'd imagined these girls would have. I screamed into pillows, wrote letters I never sent, let myself ugly cry in the shower while my daughters napped, and slowly, the anger transformed into something else. Not forgiveness, but release. I couldn't change what happened. I could only control what happened next. At 4 months, Dexter requested supervised visitation. My lawyer negotiated strict terms. 2-hour visits at a family visitation center, supervised by court-appointed monitors. No photos for social media. No updates to Bridget about the babies. The first visit was awkward. Dexter showed up with elaborate toys the babies were too young for. He held them stiffly, checked his phone constantly, seemed relieved when the time was up. Same time next week? The monitor asked. I have to check my schedule, Dexter said. I'll let you know. He canceled the next 3 visits. Work commitments, he claimed. I stopped expecting him to show up. Meanwhile, my daughters thrived. Olivia was calm and observant. Charlotte more demanding but quick to smile. They rolled over, started babbling, reached for toys. Every milestone felt like a triumph. I built a life in Oregon, made friends at the Mommy and Me classes, found a remote job that let me work from home, created routines and traditions that were mine alone. Sometimes, late at night while feeding the twins, I'd think about Bridget. Wonder if she was getting help, if she understood what she'd done, if she'd ever be allowed near children again. Mostly, I felt sorry for her. Living in a delusion must be exhausting. Being so detached from reality that you convince yourself someone else's pregnancy is yours. But my sympathy had limits. She'd terrorized me during the most vulnerable time of my life. She'd tried to steal my narrative, my experience, my children's story. That wasn't something I could forgive. When the twins were 6 months old, my lawyer called with news. Bridget and Dexter had broken up. She'd violated her therapy requirements, and the court had ordered her into intensive inpatient treatment. Dexter claimed he couldn't handle the pressure. He's asking to modify the custody arrangement, my lawyer said. Wants unsupervised visitation now that Bridget's out of the picture. What do you think? I think he's had 6 months to prove he's interested in being a father, and he's shown up for exactly 2 visits. But that's a decision only you can make. I thought about it for days, consulted my therapist, talked to my mom, made lists of pros and cons. In the end, I agreed to a slow reintegration, short supervised visits to rebuild trust, with clear terms, consistent attendance, no discussing the babies with Bridget, no posting on social media, completing a parenting class. Dexter agreed to everything. For 3 months, he showed up every week. He learned to change diapers and give bottles. He sat on the floor and played with them. He asked questions about their schedules and preferences. I watched him carefully, looking for signs of his old patterns. But he seemed different, humbled maybe, or just finally understanding what he'd almost lost. I owe you an apology, he said during one visit, for everything, for the affair, for dismissing your concerns about Bridget, for not believing you when everyone could see she was unstable. Okay, I was so caught up in my own drama that I couldn't see what you were going through. You were pregnant with my children, and I made it about my feelings. He ran a hand through his hair. I can't take it back, but I want to do better. That's not for me. That's for them. I nodded at the twins playing with blocks on the floor. They're the ones who need you to do better. At 9 months, we started overnight visits. 1 night every other week, gradually increasing. I installed cameras in the girls' room and made Dexter promise to call if anything seemed wrong. The first night they were gone, I paced my apartment, checking my phone every 10 minutes. When Dexter sent a photo of them sleeping peacefully, I finally allowed myself to breathe. They came back happy and well cared for. Dexter had followed every instruction, kept them on schedule, even managed to get them down for naps. We fell into a routine, not friendly, but functional. Co-parenting without the romance or illusions. Just 2 people doing their best for their children. I heard through mutual friends that Bridget had moved to another state, completed her inpatient program, and started fresh somewhere new. I hoped she got the help she needed. I hoped she never did this to another woman. As the twins approached their first birthday, I realized I'd built something real here. A home, a community, a life that wasn't defined by Dexter or Bridget or any of that chaos. My daughters would grow up knowing they were wanted, protected, fought for. They'd know their mother moved mountains to keep them safe. That's the story I'd tell them. Not about the stalking or the delusions or the court battles. Those were footnotes. The real story was simpler. I loved them before they were born, and I never stopped fighting for them. On their first birthday, we had a small party. My aunt's backyard, decorated with balloons and streamers. My mom flew in, Dad drove up with his wife, a few friends from my mommy group, and Dexter, who brought thoughtful presents and stayed to help clean up. The twins smashed their cakes, giggling at the mess. Charlotte got frosting in her hair. Olivia very seriously tried to eat the candle. Everyone laughed and took photos and celebrated these 2 perfect girls who'd survived so much before they even knew the world existed. That night, after everyone left and the twins were asleep, I sat in their nursery watching them breathe. Olivia sucked her thumb. Charlotte clutched her favorite blanket. They were safe. They were loved. They were mine. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, 6 months pregnant and terrified, running from a nightmare situation, building a new life from scratch. I'd been so scared I wouldn't be strong enough, but I was. I am. And I'll keep being strong for them, for as long as they need me. The story doesn't end happily ever after. There's no perfect resolution. Dexter and I will be co-parenting for 18 years. Bridget's out there somewhere, hopefully healing. The trauma of those months will probably stay with me forever. But my daughters are here, healthy and happy and growing. That's the only ending that matters. I learned something during those dark months. When you're pushed to the edge, you discover what you're really made of. You find reserves of strength you didn't know existed. You learn who shows up when everything falls apart. My mom showed up. My aunt showed up. Even my dad, in his way, showed up. They formed a circle of protection around us when we needed it most, and I showed up for my daughters every single day. Through the fear and exhaustion and uncertainty, I chose them over and over again. That's what being a mother means, I think. Not the perfect Instagram posts or the pristine nurseries or the fantasy narratives. Just showing up, doing the work, protecting your children from harm. Bridget wanted the aesthetic of motherhood without the reality. She wanted the congratulations and the cute outfits and the social media validation. But motherhood isn't a performance. It's 1,000 small acts of service that no one sees or celebrates. It's waking up every 3 hours for months, changing diapers until your hands are raw, soothing tears and fears and night terrors, putting someone else's needs before your own, always, without hesitation. Bridget never understood that. Maybe she never could. Her delusion was about possession, not love. She wanted to own my pregnancy, not do the work of mothering. I feel sorry for her, in a way. She'll never know what she missed. Not the Instagram version of parenthood, but the real thing. The messy, exhausting, transformative reality of raising children. My daughters turn 1 in 6 days. I've planned a simple party, just close family. Nothing elaborate or performative, just people who love these girls celebrating their first year of life. 1 year since I drove 200 miles to escape a nightmare. 1 year since I fought for the right to raise my own children in peace. 1 year since I learned what I was truly capable of. Looking back, I can see how every terrible moment led somewhere necessary. The betrayal showed me Dexter's true character before our children were old enough to be damaged by it. The stalking created legal documentation that protected us. The interstate move gave me space to build a stable home. I didn't choose any of it, but I survived all of it. And that's something. The twins are stirring in their cribs. Olivia's making her hungry sounds, which means Charlotte will wake up demanding food in approximately 90 seconds. My peaceful moment of reflection is over. I stand, stretch the ache from my shoulders, and prepare to face another day of double feedings and double diapers and double everything, but also double the smiles, double the milestones, double the love. I walk to their cribs and look down at their perfect faces. "Good morning, sweet girls," I whisper, ready to start the day. Olivia opens her eyes and reaches for me. Charlotte yawns and stretches. They have no idea what we went through to get here. Someday, when they're older, I'll tell them. Not to scare them, but to teach them. I'll tell them about the woman who tried to steal their story, about the father who finally stepped up, about the family who circled around us when we needed it most. I'll tell them they were worth fighting for, that I'd do it all again, 1,000 times over, to keep them safe. But for now, they're just babies who need breakfast and clean diapers and someone to sing silly songs while they play. They need a mother who shows up, who does the work, who loves them fiercely and without condition. And that's exactly what they have. I pick them up, one in each arm, and carry them to the changing table. They babble at me in their twin language, making sounds that are almost words, but not quite. "I know, babies," I say. I know, and I do know. I know exactly what they need, because I'm their mother. Not because I performed motherhood on social media or created elaborate nurseries or threw perfect parties, but because I showed up every single day, through the hardest year of my life. That's my story. Not the one Bridget tried to steal. Not the fantasy Dexter imagined, but the real one. Messy and complicated and ultimately triumphant. We survived. We built a life. We're going to be okay. More than okay. We're going to be everything we need to be, together.